He'd only dozed off for a moment in the car when he found himself in an awkward situation.
Monsieur.
He quickly pulled out his ticket to prove he hadn't meant to fare Dodge, but was still thrown off the train.
Vous êtes trompé de train.
Non, c'est pas le train pour Paris.
Non.
He'd traveled this route countless times, never expecting something to go wrong on his daughter's birthday. The train had made an unscheduled stop at a small station, and he would have to wait for the next connection to Paris. The station was surrounded by mountains, old and weathered yet simple and natural. The familiar sight made him pause. He had somehow returned to the hometown he hadn't visited in years. After hesitating for a moment, he dragged his suitcase toward the village ahead. The lake was still a vivid green, and the houses were still standing, though now showing signs of age. The town's buildings looked much older, and the streets felt more desolate. He walked for a while, encountering only unfamiliar faces, until a mechanic by the roadside called out his name. It took him a few seconds to recognize his childhood friend, Lucio. The last time they'd met, Lucio had a full head of hair. Now, their reunion was filled with emotion. His friend enthusiastically took him along the paths of their childhood. They chatted happily along the way, from one end of the street to the other. The town that used to take so long to run through as a child now felt somehow smaller. His friend invited him for a drink, but he declined. Thomas wanted to visit his mother's grave at the cemetery before the train departed. Dragging his heavy suitcase and looking at the countless headstones of the departed, he realized he couldn't quite remember where his mother was buried. Luckily, the cemetery wasn't too large, and his mother's headstone was remarkably simple, so he found it after just a few steps. He crouched down and gently touched the stone with both hands. The cold stone seemed to carry his mother's warmth, and tears welled up in his eyes. After his mother passed, things hadn't been going well for him. His career was stagnating, his marriage was on shaky ground, and the pressures of reality weighed on his face every day. He desperately wanted to find the answers to his problems, unaware that the key lay hidden in this place he'd been reluctant to return to. Just then, a butterfly caught his attention, and his gaze followed its flight, until the world began to spin, and he fell to the ground. He didn't know how long he had been unconscious, but when Thomas opened his eyes again, he instinctively scrambled up and ran out of the cemetery, grabbed a bicycle by the roadside, and headed toward the station, unaware that he himself had changed. His mind was filled only with his promise to his daughter, and the fear of his family falling apart. But then, his reflection in a shop window revealed a much younger face. He realized something was wrong. The town, too, had returned to its former bustle. Cars filled the streets, people came and went, and even Lucio, whom he'd just seen as an adult, was now a child. To test his theory, he hurried to his old home. His father was just coming out the door, calling for his help. He followed his father inside, and then saw a familiar figure through the glass window. His mother, who had long since passed away. Nearby, his young sister was playing on the floor. He couldn't tell if this was a dream or reality. Nothing in the house had changed. The regrets of the past had not yet happened. The doll in the cabinet, the vinyl records on the shelf, and the watch on his father's wrist. Memories that time had faded were becoming clear again. The family he had only been able to see in dreams for the past 20 years was now standing before him, alive. Thomas had always regretted not stopping his father from leaving on June 5th. Maybe if his father had stayed, he could have avoided the misfortunes of the second half of his life. After dinner, he habitually picked up the newspaper on the table, and saw the date, June 12, 1967. His father was still there. Thomas loved this dream. He was 14 again, but this time, his father didn't leave. June 5, 1967, was his father's 40th birthday, but he had left without a word that night, taking nothing with him, and leaving nothing behind. The sudden change turned the family's life upside down, and his mother's smile disappeared forever. She spent her remaining years waiting for her husband to return. When Thomas woke up again, he found he was still in this dreamscape. He tried every method to go back, but nothing worked. So Thomas reluctantly accepted reality and went to school. Even though he was starting over, he still found studying excruciating. A 45-minute class still felt like a prison sentence. The sketchbook in his desk drawer was his way of passing the time. The girl he drew was Dolores, the most famous beauty in the area, and the inspiration for his future career as a comic artist. He had never actually interacted with her. He had simply kept those feelings buried. This time, however, his secret was discovered by the teacher.
Montrez-moi ça.
Non, c'est personnel.
Donnez-moi ce cahier. Tiens, on dirait Mademoiselle Dumontel.
Et en quoi ça vous regarde?
It was the first time he stood up to a teacher. Even his rebellious, curly-haired friend thought he had gone too far. Before, he had been terrified of being scolded by teachers. But if this was just a dream, why not be a little bold? He advised his friend to quit smoking, since later in life, he would die from lung cancer because of it. But his friend thought he was being a busybody, and they parted on bad terms. But they made up the next day. At that age, there was nothing a simple bro couldn't fix. After school, they still hung out together. Thomas started savoring his so-called youth and innocence, almost as if the memories of adulthood were the real dream. Until that night, his sister woke up from a nightmare. Thomas went to comfort her, but the name that came out was that of his youngest daughter. Soon, his sister fell back asleep, but Thomas sat on the edge of the bed, unable to sleep. He remembered that this was a dream, and in reality, his family was waiting for him. He shouldn't indulge indulge in this. He needed to return to his own world. So the next day, Thomas rode his bicycle as fast as he could toward the cemetery. He went to the spot where he had first woken up, closed his eyes, and prayed to the heavens to send him back to the real world. But when he opened his eyes again, he was still in the dream. Dejected, Thomas returned home and buried himself in his mother's arms. His mother could see that her son was carrying an unspoken pain, but she didn't ask what was wrong. She just held him silently. Later, she took him to the lake to talk. It was then that Thomas learned his father's birthday party had been postponed to that Sunday. Originally, on June 5th, Thomas hadn't come home on time, so the family had anxiously gone out searching for him. It wasn't until evening that his father found him unconscious at the cemetery, so the family gathering had to be cancelled. But Thomas had no memory of this. The doctor said he had hit his head in the fall, and temporary memory loss was normal. His mother's words made him understand. When he was 14, he had indeed injured his head. He had never been able to fully remember that period, and now he knew why. It wasn't that he had forgotten, but that his older self had already come back. What he didn't understand was why his older self had still been unable to change the outcome of his father leaving. Was history simply unchangeable? Regardless, he called his future wife, whom he hadn't even met yet, to make sure they would still cross paths later in life. Then, Thomas began to think calmly. What exactly had driven his father to abandon his family and vanish without a trace? If his coming back hadn't altered the original chain of events, then the day his father would leave was this Sunday. To keep his father from leaving, he made an excuse about his injury and took a week off from school, then stayed by his father's side every moment. The first day, he noticed nothing unusual, but he did realize how much he resembled his father. They were both the quiet, reserved type in their marriages. One day, he went to bring some pastries to his grandmother. His grandmother was happy to see Thomas. She prepared a feast and told him stories about his father's childhood. It turned out his grandfather had died young, so his father had to start working as a child to help support the family. Later, World War II broke out, and his father was sent to the front. There, he met a comrade. They fought side by side, risking their lives and saving many others. In the end, however, his comrade was killed. His father, who had survived, became withdrawn. Before dying, the comrade had entrusted his fiancée to him. To honor that promise, his father married the fiancée, Fiorella, Thomas's mother. On the way home, Thomas's emotions were complicated. He had always thought of his father as an extremely selfish and irresponsible man, but now he didn't know how to judge him. The next day, however, he noticed something strange. His father took a mysterious phone call and hurried out. Thomas followed him and discovered his father was meeting another woman in secret. At that moment, his mind went blank. He could accept his father's coldness, even his selfishness, but he couldn't accept that his heart belonged to someone else. Filled with hurt and anger, Thomas went to his friend's family bar, ordered 3 glasses of whiskey, and, under the bewildered gaze of the waiter, drank them one after another. If his father was destined to leave them, the only thing that could make him abandon his family was that woman. Unable to handle the alcohol, he passed out.
Tu te saoules maintenant? T'as pas honte?
Et toi, t'as pas honte?
It was the first time his father had ever hit him. Walking through the cold, quiet streets, Thomas looked at his father's heavy figure and couldn't help but ask if there was some reason behind it all. But no matter how he pressed, his father brushed him off coldly. To find out the truth, Thomas secretly went to a nursing home and found the woman his father had been seeing. She recognized him immediately. He looked so much like his father did as a child. Thomas had come to confront and shame this woman, but looking at her weary face, he couldn't muster any anger. The woman and his father had grown up together. They had shared the best years of their childhood, and their friendship had continued all these years, without ever crossing a line. They had lost touch, and she thought they would never meet again. But not long ago, she had fallen seriously ill and, by chance, came to this town, and they had reconnected. Perhaps for this woman, his father was the only thing giving her the strength to fight her illness. Facing a dying old friend, his father had every right to visit her. Thomas had no right to stop him. After all, he would have done the same. With this understanding, he decided not to tell his mother about the woman. But it seemed his father had found out about his visit to the nursing home. He didn't say anything, but a knowing smile crossed his face. The next day, his father suggested they go fishing. By the lake, his father visibly relaxed. His father used the mountain breeze to heal his own inner wounds. It was how he dealt with stress. Now, he was passing that on to his son, though Thomas didn't seem to have inherited that ability. Either way, tomorrow was Sunday. Whether his father would stay or not would be decided then. Thomas thought he had everything under control, but that night, his father quietly came to his bedside.
Je sais que tu dors pas. Je sais que tu l'as rencontrée. Elle est morte.
The party for his father went ahead as planned. As he remembered, his father said he was going out to buy bread. Thomas was afraid his father would leave again, so he had prepared everything in advance. Seeing that his father seemed perfectly normal, Thomas let his guard down, thinking he had successfully changed history. Soon, dinner was over. His mother brought out the cake to celebrate, only to find his father had quietly slipped away. Thomas rode his bicycle to the station, where his father was waiting for the train. He went up to him and pleaded with him not to leave.
Comment tu savais que j'étais là?
Je le sais.
Dis à ta mère que... J'ai laissé de l'argent dans l'armoire en haut. On saura où.
But Thomas knew all too well what the future held, even if his father left money behind, and the tailor shop stayed open. His mother, after a few years of struggling, still failed. She had to take on odd jobs to support them, eventually wearing herself down, and passed away young.
J'ai toujours fait ce qu'il fallait faire. J'ai jamais rien choisi dans ma vie.
Nous, c'est pas ta vie.
Peut-être que tu me comprendras quand t'auras mon âge.
No matter how hard he tried to stop it, his father still left. It seemed that no matter what was destined was destined. Afterward, Thomas rode his bike to clear his head. He stumbled near the cemetery and thought he saw his older self, so he chased after him, only to see a white butterfly. His gaze followed the butterfly as it fluttered, and then he collapsed to the ground. When he woke up, he was back in the cemetery where he had first fainted. Whether that journey back to being 14 was a parallel world time travel or a strange, vivid dream, the outcome remained unchanged. Before, Thomas had seen his father as a selfish, cold man who abandoned his family, but after going back, he saw another side of him. He saw the weight his father carried, bound by a promise to a fallen comrade, marrying a woman he didn't truly love. He saw his father's quiet suffering in the marriage, spending his life playing the role of a good husband and father, but losing himself in the process. This wasn't an excuse for his father's abandonment. Leaving his family was undeniably wrong. The pain it caused his mother was real, but Thomas finally understood. Parents are not just parents, they are human beings who can also fall apart. The father who turned away at the station that day wasn't a cold, emotionless figure, but a man crushed by life, desperately trying to escape a suffocating existence. When Thomas returned home and saw his wife and daughters setting up a birthday cake, he felt the deep warmth of family love. Some love isn't absent, it's just been waiting for him to see it. He couldn't save his parents' marriage, but he learned how to build his own life going forward.